as you probably know, if you're at all interested in Halo, Halo 3 has been recently released on PC. And along with that, they've also released Season 2 for the cosmetic items, meaning that we now have a whole new 100 levels to go through to get cosmetics. And interestingly enough, they've actually decided to add cosmetics or skins to Halo 1. And to be honest, as someone who's played Halo for quite a long time, I personally quite like the skins, or at least the way they've implemented it. Granted, some of the skins do look a little stupid, I don't have to pick them, but that isn't what today's video is necessarily about. I was browsing Twitter yesterday, and I came across a tweet which showed off the fact that with this new update and the new skins, they had also revamped or redone the original textures for the weapons. And as you can probably see with these examples, the quality looks a lot better. And obviously it poses a few questions, like, for one, how do they manage to improve the quality of these of the textures on the weapons, and why? And so if we actually look at the individual weapon skins and look at the original and then the new versions, they obviously look a lot higher in quality. For me, it's somewhat confusing, and I'll explain later. But a neat little thing they did is, for the skins in general, is you have an option in-game to turn on or off whether or not you just want to keep everything original. So things like the new skins that you can apply on weapons don't show up in game for you or anyone else, there, at least on your side, meaning that it is closer to the original version. Or you can decide to have it turn off, which I think is the default, where it will show custom weapon skins. And as part of this, any weapon you pick up gets this new higher skin texture as long as you have custom skins set to on. If you don't, you'll get the lower quality version of these skins. So what I want to do is I want to sort of theorize over how they managed to get these higher quality textures, because I think it's quite interesting onto how they would have managed to have figured it out and have done it. Because when I was looking in the comment section of the post, someone had suggested that chances are it was probably AI upscaled. And for those not aware what an AI upscaler is, all it does is it grabs a image, doesn't matter what the res is, and if you change or tweak some of the upscale settings, it can create the same image at a much higher resolution. So let's imagine we have this texture here. I don't know what it'll be, but you'll see in a post. It's 64 pixels across and 64 pixels down. What I can do is I can chuck this in an upscaler to get it to, let's say, 1024 by 1024. This is an extreme example of starting from a really low resolution going to a really high one. But the point of this is to show that this AI upscaler doesn't necessarily add detail to a texture, but it definitely fakes it to make it appear as if it's a lot higher res than it actually is. Because what they do is they train an AI based on a lot of lower res textures and train it to create better looking higher res versions. And so the person who reckoned it was upscaled, I did believe them quite some time. But in weapons like the plasma rifle, you had just a sort of blue texture around the blue texture around parts of the gun. But in the newer version, it's now added hexagon-like patterns to the weapon, which is weird because an AI upscaler wouldn't do that, because there's no information that points to hexagons even being in the original lower res version. And that's the thing with AI, is it doesn't add detail that wasn't there, it just fakes detail. And so my guess was at that point that maybe someone had upscaled it and then overlaid like a hexagon pattern over that part of the gun to add more detail to it, which made sense at the time. And another reason as to why it wouldn't have been upscaled is that if you look at the pistol and just underneath the red part, if you look at the new skin around this corner part here, it's a square with a dot in the middle, but if you look at the original, it appears to be just a square. And so if this was an upscaler, stuff like that wouldn't happen. Not to mention the red part of the pistol itself has changed from being slightly red with a bit of white at the top, to being red with a line through the middle near the top of it. It just wasn't there in the original. And so I doubt it was upscaling, because upscaling wouldn't do stuff like that. Not to mention the quality of these upscales or these newer skins appears to be too good for it to be an upscale. Because if it was an upscale, you'd see a lot of weird artifacting and the quality of it definitely wouldn't be this good. And so then I thought, oh, maybe they had access to higher quality versions. And you might ask what I mean by that. Let's imagine I'm developing a game and I need a grass texture, and the texture I use is at 1024 by 1024 pixels up and across. And because I'm doing it for a specific hardware, in this case the original Xbox, having it at that resolution would be too intense for the the hardware to do. So what I do is I lower it to, let's go, 128 by 128, and so you get a lot lower quality version. So when it comes back around 20 years, that original 128 by 128 looks really bad. In the case, it's like, well, if they don't have access to the original, they might upscale it, but then obviously that's not going to look the best because the upscaling is going to make it look funny. And so what I thought is that they still had access to that original 1024 by 1024 texture from 20 years ago, but in this case we'll just convert it over to the weapon skins. I thought maybe they had the original versions, because that would have made sense, because then things like the plasma rifles hexagons would in theory completely disappear if you lowered the resolution too much, as it's the hexagons on the plasma rifle are really faint. And so I thought that makes sense, because it would help explain why some of these artifacts completely disappear or are really hard to make out on the lower res ones. But here's why I don't believe that to be the case, because I was messing around in a custom game just by myself, hopping in new weapons with the skins, and at the time I didn't have any customization for the tank, and so when I hopped into it I saw it flicker and change colour just a smidge. So I decided to look at it and thought, hey, that looked a bit upscaled as well. It appeared to have a higher quality version. And so what I did was I put them side by side and I looked at the light on the front of the tank, and I looked at both of them and went, they did the same with the vehicles as well. So by the looks of things, not only did they create newer higher quality versions for the weapons themselves, they did it for the vehicles as well. So what I believe to be the case is they created new higher quality versions for any skins, so that's the weapons and vehicles. And now here's the final reason as to why I don't believe that these are upscalers at all. Because I was messing with it, looking at the high quality versions with pretty much all the vehicles. And then once I recorded some footage for it, because I was planning to make a video talking about it, like I'm doing right now, I looked at the Ghost's interior. And if you look at it, there are certain parts on it which are located in different positions on both versions. So if you look at the inside of the Ghost's interiors, and you look at these white dots across the top, and these little off-cut parts from the center screen, and I'll show you obviously where they are in video editing, but if you look at them between the old version and the new version, not only are they high quality versions, but they seem to be different shapes. Like in the original, it appeared to be like a slightly oval, but in the new version, it's a circle. Not to mention, the overall positioning of them appears to be in slightly different locations. And so due to that, I've come to the conclusion that through guessing, I reckon they've gone through and manually redid the textures, looking at the originals, and then like redoing it and creating a higher quality version. Because if you look at the inside of the Ghost, it changes its positioning, and if it was an AI upscale, they wouldn't change positioning like that. Things would obviously appear to move slightly, but we're talking like a few pixels. We're not talking about things changing shapes or moving locations. And so what I believe to be the case is that they've got someone to go through and redo all the textures from scratch, keeping faithful to the originals. And that would explain why the plasma rifle has detail added to it that wasn't in the original, because someone's gone through it themselves and added it to it. Beyond that, there's not much. I don't have any details from vehicles or weapons other than the ones I've showed you that point to this conclusion that someone's gone through manually and changed the textures. But I do believe that to be the case from the evidence I've shown before you. Also, another thing I saw, which I honestly wasn't expecting from it, is that these new skins are only available if you set custom skins on, meaning that we also have to allow custom skins, like all them new skins that have been added to the Season 2. And surprisingly, there are actually a few people in the comment section saying they wanted these higher quality versions but still didn't want to have to use the new skins. Which makes sense. They want a higher quality version that's actually still faithful to the game. So obviously to them, changing the skins, like making the Ghost red or something like that, it's too far. But having a recreation, or what they would have probably believed to be an upscale, to them was still faithful enough that they'd want to switch to it, which is fair enough. And to be honest, I find it quite interesting as to why they would have done this at all. I feel as if the only reason they would have done such a thing was for the custom skins, to make them look better, because obviously if they were too low res, they wouldn't look as good. So I reckon they redone these textures for higher quality versions so that the skins themselves, the new custom skins, would look better. And I think that's why they did it. Not because obviously there'd be no reason to use a high quality version beyond that. Because what, they're going to try and improve the graphics of a 20-year-old game? They have no reason to, unless they want to make custom skins in which people grind and work towards look better. And that would be the only reason I could think of as to why they'd use high quality versions. So my guess is they created these high quality versions, then decided to change colours or add whatever details they wanted to create the new skins. So anyway, that was my reasoning as to why the new vehicle skins are unfaithful to the original. Not in the sense that they're bad, but obviously in the sense that some things change, proving it's not like they've got access to a high quality or they've upscaled them. Also, one last thought I had. I imagine that because they've created a new season related to Halo 1 skins for weapons and vehicles, I don't reckon we'd be surprised if they end up doing the same for Halo 2 and 3, and probably Reach as well. And so what I reckon they might do, specifically with Halo 2, is also upscale the weapon skins and vehicle textures, because obviously it's also an original Xbox game, and so the resolution of them might be low as well. And so I wouldn't put it out of the question that they might also decide to upscale, or at least recreate, as I've suggested again and again. So I believe they'll recreate the textures in a higher quality version for Halo 2 as well. Makes sense. They've done it with Halo 1, and I believe they're going to do it again for Halo 2. But I also reckon they're less likely to do it for any game after Halo 3, as the resolution for the textures high enough to not necessarily make it as big as a problem as it has been in Halo 1 and probably Halo 2. If you want to talk about this or any thoughts you have about this, comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe for more Halo related content, and I'll see you later.